Live from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the Path.
I am a working man, I get things done. Work for the Holy Ghost, work for the Son. I am a working man, oh yes I am. I am a special agent of the Lamb. Now I'm gonna wear your...
And you're listening to Live from the Path, coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper. It's beautiful to be with you on this fine evening. I hope you enjoyed something delicious from the gas station. I will suggest the Reese's folks have come out with the peanut butter and jelly Reese's peanut butter cup.
What?
Yeah, they've got a grape version and a strawberry version, and yeah, like 9 out of 10.
Is it available at Quick Start?
I didn't see it there. I got mine at a Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh, and it was all right. Anyway, I mean, FOMO, you got to try it. Like, you got to try. I don't understand how this has not happened up to this point. It's crazy.
I mean, you think about it.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
It's wild. This has not occurred.
Whichever guy that thought, hey man, I'm gonna put this stuff right by the counter, so they'll look at it on the way out. The impulse buys or whatever.
Yeah,
like he had me in mind.
Oh,
like
totally.
If you put anything within 3 feet of the counter, I'm like, ooh. What's that? Even gross stuff. I'm like, I gotta try that.
I'll give that a shot for sure. Okay, here's what we got going on the show this evening. So the Pope Francis died today.
What was his full popery name?
This is just Pope Francis.
What? He wasn't like Pope Francis Paul?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I don't keep that close of an eye on it, I guess. So, this is slightly on the peripheral, but I was looking at my Google Calendar yesterday, and of the pre-built holidays that Google provides, Easter Monday was one of them.
Huh.
I'm like, where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And so I clicked on it. I thought, well, maybe there's more cultural information available to me. As a Christian, I feel like I should know, but as a pastor, I'd be embarrassed that I can't explain this Easter Monday business.
Right.
So I looked at it, and it did not tell me anything else. Have you guys heard of this? People referring to it as Easter Monday?
Because they were a Catholic priest guy was talking on the news about the Pope, and I'm trying to think of what he said, because it made sense at the time. I thought, oh, okay, it's like, yeah, Easter's over, and it's done, and we're still here. I thought, so you gave that a name? I mean, Easter Monday.
Yeah,
does that make it tomorrow, Easter Tuesday?
I guess.
Like under that premise, like it's Easter every day because we just got past the Easter.
Yeah, we're still going.
Okay, it is. Pope Francis was his name. His full name, though, was George Mario Bergoglio. Which, I mean, to be honest...
It's Jorge. He's not French.
George.
It's not George.
Jorge. Where's he from?
Yeah, I think he's from South America.
I mean... We're going to stick with Jorge.
No, I'm not going to say
Jorge Mario Bergoglio. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
He should have been a street fighter.
Yeah, it was an option. I don't know how we got down this route.
Anyway, continue on. I don't want to blaspheme the man.
Anyway, the Pope has passed away. So one of the questions is like, how do they do this thing? How do you find the next Pope? And like, we're not Catholic, but I mean, let's just say you had a big institution like the Catholics. I don't know. Like, how would you go about it? It's very intriguing, the situation they're in, especially the influence that a pope has. And like,
do they ever vote on anything as like the Catholic Church?
Like everybody?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
No. It's a republic, really. It's a representative government.
But you don't pick the representative. The representative is chosen for you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the Protestants never get together and vote on anything.
No, we just avoid this problem by not having, like, you either got to figure out a mechanism to manage such a giant thing. Otherwise you go, can't be done. Split them all up.
Yeah, most churches, though, there's all kinds of votes for all kinds of things.
Well, at the individual level, you're right. Like members can vote.
Yeah. Like I've been so far out of that. It's been 24 years since I've been in a church that votes on stuff. You know, because we just don't work that way. But Yeah, I talk to friends all the time. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna have a vote on whether we change to a communion juice." I'm like, "What?"
We're not going to do that. Which it's just wild though. Like think of that, and like I'm the ultimate cheater because like the house church thing just completely blows up. We don't have to manage anything, but because I feel like it's so difficult to start to like the bigger you go, the harder it is to manage. The more I'm like, I don't know, are we even talking about the right things anymore? And it can be done. I just am like real wary of it. But like, let's just say if you were trying to run something as big as what the Catholic Church is trying to run, I mean, it seems like a crazy thing to try to accomplish. And so I know it's easy, right, for scrutiny about some of this stuff. I'm just saying, like, nothing runs that large.
Because they run it. I mean, it's not like some CEO off in a corner somewhere. Like Pope speaks. That is a worldwide declaration.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy.
It is wild.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else like it.
How could you find a guy?
Do they get in a room and they're like, all right, fellas, who's the best of us?
Yeah. So like once the Pope dies, there's like, I can't remember it exactly. It's like a 2 to 3 week time frame where they got to select another Pope. It can start as soon as possible, like, but everybody has to get there. So like there's criteria. You have to be less than 80 years old. And then there's like a number of like there's a few other things, but like I think there was 185 people who qualify, like who could be the next Pope, and these are the people who are voting.
Now didn't the last Pope, he's still alive, right? That retired, because that was such an unusual thing.
No, I think he's dead.
Did he? Oh,
didn't the other guy die?
I'll look him up.
Okay.
I don't follow.
No, sorry. Yeah. I said you don't have to, anybody could technically be Pope, but most of the time, vast majority of the time, they come from this stock of people who are the people who get to vote.
I'm waiting for a phone call.
Oh, you're not a Catholic, Dan. You're not allowed.
I'm part of the Catholic Church.
They want capital C.
I'm small C Catholic Church.
No, you can't do. It cannot be done. So anyway, they get this group of dudes here, and like at the last Pope choosing, they limited it to like only 120 of them, I think. But anyway, they show up, and everyone gets put into these chambers or whatever, and they go, all right, from here on out, like no visitors. Nothing. You don't get any outside world, information or whatever. It's just us, 120 fellers, and we're going to vote for the Pope. And they all write down. They vote up to like 4 times a day, and so they take these votes, and like everyone comes up, and you got this little slip of paper, and you say a thing like some Latin that is something about commitment or something, and then you put it into the box, and then they get them all like sewn together. They like sew all these votes together, and they count them up, and then if there's no consensus, I think it's like 2/3 or something, they take all of them and they mix it with a chemical so that when you burn it, it's a black smoke, and then that's where the black smoke goes out the chimney. That's why the cameras are going to be on this chimney in like a week, and there's going to be like 24/7 coverage of the chimney over at the Vatican.
Yeah.
And like they sleep, like everyone stays on the grounds. They said they have very like rudimentary dormitory type of places to sleep. I mean, you're spending your time in like the Sistine Chapel and in like very, I don't know, historically awesome looking buildings, but these dudes are sleeping in, cots or.
do they have like a talent show?
It's unclear.
Like The Voice type of thing?
Some people sing.
Maybe put a mask on and
totally
try to guess.
But I mean, like, are they all like praying and then be like, hey, let's get together in a couple hours, everybody go pray about it?
Oh yeah, I think they pray together, and people are praying separately, and there is some jockeying, like there would have to be.
Yeah,
like you just.
Because you're saying there's like 175 people, and those are the ones voting on themselves?
Most of the time, it's coming from that group of guys. They could technically grab anybody, but most of the time, it's from that stable of dudes.
Okay.
And so, like, you get to hear they're trying to figure out, you don't want to. It's kind of like a jury. Like, you just don't want to be way out of left field and not know where the winds are blowing. You got to know where you're going to start compromising or what people care about or whatever.
Have they ever kicked a pope out? Like, have they made a bad decision and they're look, man, you're depoped.
Yeah. Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, they've had to do that. So anyway, and they just keep doing it. And they said like 2 to 4 times a day, and they keep doing it until they get closer and closer, and eventually you get to 2/3. And they take all that up and they put a different chemical in there, so when it burns, it's white smoke, and then everyone knows that a pope has been chosen. And then within a few hours, that pope will come out and generally speaks, and he gets to choose his name. So Francis, we said his name was Jorge Mario
Bergoglio,
and he chose Pope Francis. He became Pope Francis off of Francis of Assisi, and so same thing. Like the Pope gets to change, and it kind of like it gives them a chance to like you get a sense for what they care about. So Francis of Assisi had a deep care for the poor and the underprivileged, and you do see that a lot in I think what Pope Francis was trying to do, and so same thing is going to happen here. Like you kind of get a sense if you get some guy names a Pius X or something, like you know that he's like a hard noser and he's willing to take the sword, and so like that's what you'll get, and then whenever then the stuff all just starts falling into place, and he starts poping.
The whole thing is fascinating to me.
Yeah. They have to have some type of sense of what's going on. I mean, you got 175 whatever pick guys. Every one of them's thinking, "Hey, this could be me."
Oh, right.
I mean, why wouldn't you vote for yourself?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or are they honest with themselves and say, but John over there, he'd
be good.
He's probably better than me.
Yeah, I think that's going to be because like it could go one of two ways, right? Like everybody's like super humble about it. They're like, I don't know if God's chosen me for this. What about the rest of you fellas? And they all do the same thing, right? Until one guy's like, no, yeah, it's definitely me. They're like, I don't know about that. I mean, who screams right to the front?
Well, and think about it. Like, let's, maybe it wouldn't go quite this way, but if you took that same structure and you looked at non-Catholics, so let's just go with Protestant churches, and you think of all the big leaders. You've got some theologians, you've got all kinds of like very popular pastors. And let's say you could scrounge up 120 of them dudes to put into a room. Like, wouldn't that be chaos?
Oh, yeah.
And there's no way they'd come to a consensus in even 2 weeks.
Kenneth Copeland and what's the guy we always make fun of with the curly hair and Olstein.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Jesse Duplantis, Mark Driscoll. You're going to put all these guys in a room?
TV evangelist guys who are building empires and they're like, okay, there's only one of you.
Yeah.
We're going to vote.
You wouldn't get to 2/3. It feels like there's no way.
No, it would never happen.
No. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. And think this was the Protestant churches like so split because like you'd have theological lines where people like hard nose cannot do it. I can't vote for this guy. The Catholics are like, well, I mean, this is what the Catholics believe. So everyone in here is Catholic. So, I mean,
that helps.
We can lose, but I mean,
it's
not
kind
really.
It's the age-old question though, like, because it depends on what community you're in that almost kind of guides which kind of pastor you're going to have, right? Because you're right, like there's really good theologians out there, but they couldn't deliver a sermon to spend their days.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's really slick talkers, but they got, they're more motivational speakers than they are whatever, Right. And then there's like pastors they're just really good at running a church, right? The business of running a church, right? They make sure this is funded and this is whatever. And so like, what is the Pope's like job?
Actually, I think you've seen, but like I'm no Catholic historian. I know somewhat enough to be dangerous at times, but like I think it is varied by popes, and so you saw the 2 popes previous to Pope Francis, like were largely concerned with the theology. They wanted to make sure, like, has the Catholic faith articulated itself to know that people knew where to stand on hot button modern issues. It was less pastoral. It wasn't not pastoral, but it was less so. It was more like, hey, how do we think about these things? And that was true for I feel bad like Benedict
and John Paul
and John Paul. But then Pope Francis was more pastoral. Like he would be the guy where like, some of the popes would go to these big cities. He almost wouldn't like stop and do big events in big cities. He would always go to like the peripheral cities. He would, there's like multiple places of which you can stay in Vatican City. And his is like the most, like the not ornate one. Like he was that was his backgrounds where like a lot of the work he did. And you see that when he chooses like, Francis of Assisi, like that's the vibe that he's giving. And yes, of course, like when he spoke, people listened, and like it got him in some hot water a few different times when he was talking on something that was intended to communicate a level of grace to individuals, and like it got translated into, oh, this is like new. There's something's changing about how the church thinks about things. And really, he's like, it's almost the equivalent of things where I would say there's some conversations that are kitchen table conversations. Yes, I mean, if you ask me plainly, what do I think the scriptures and Jesus feel about X, Y thing, I can tell you that. But it doesn't mean that I want to. What I want to do is have a kitchen table conversation with you, because I know there's a lot of that goes into these types of things. Yeah. And like, I'm not defending Pope Francis. There's some things that I just flat out wouldn't agree with that he said. But I do think the tenor of what he was trying to do was more pastoral than those other things. And because people were looking for like very solid lines of which to say ins and outs, goods and bads, sometimes he was difficult for both the more conservative and more liberal folks to take in because of that. He was dealing with human situations. But unfortunately, to your point though, like, you're the one guy whose words carry impact to the whole world. Like, maybe you can't have that guy doing it. Mm-hmm. Like the pastoral guy who can't, like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't have people hang on to my words. Like the things that I say to individuals in comfort and encouragement, like, I'm just not that careful with my words. And so I'm the wrong guy for that job. Anyway. Anyway, that's what I don't. But I think it is as like it's. I mean, it's rife for. Hey, can people abuse it? Is it mystery? Is it mysterious? Well, yeah. But like, what would you have it be? Like, you can't have it be some sort of populist circus. Yeah. Like, and you can't have, how many was it? Like, 1.5 billion Catholics or something?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you could send out
6 billion.
Yeah. So you can't go send out votes for everyone. And so, yes, you got representatives. Yes, they're older and wiser dudes, coming in to do that. And it's the Catholic Church. Are you surprised it's all fellas? Like, these are not surprising things. It's like there's a practicality to it. And there's one thing, like the things I've always appreciated, I think it can be barriers to like meeting and following Jesus, but like as an institution, they've been saying the same crap for 1,000 years. True. You say the same thing when you put the vote in. You make the same commitments when you get in the room and go, look, we can't talk to anybody. And like, there's something, how else can you feel comfortable and stable in something in the selection process of someone who has so much influence, for good or for bad? That, like a crappy pope could, here's the thing, a really terrible pope, like, don't just whiz on Catholics. You know what I'm saying? Like, if something were to happen, like, it would fall on everybody else who claims to follow the same Jesus. And so, like, I don't believe in the Pope as an authority figure, but like, it does, I will pray for him. Mm-hmm. And I will pray for the process because it does influence how people think of Jesus. And so, anyway.
And I would say the average unbeliever who's not attended church anywhere, they don't know the difference between a Catholic and a Protestant.
Yeah, right.
That's just, okay. Whatever,
and actually, I think they tend to lean to think that most Christians are the Catholic version, right? Yeah. Because it's the most new, not nuanced. It's got its most idiosyncrasies, right? Like they automatically think of a nun or a guy in a black cloak with a white something or other, or doing Hail Marys or stuff. Like if you were going to ask people what Christianity was that doesn't know anything about it, they know the form and the function of the Catholic Church better than just about anything.
Yeah. It's most visually apparent. Like if you were to walk down the road and say, hey, pick out me the street thief, like you're going to look for exaggerated cartoonish versions of what a street thief looks like, but most of them look like you. That's what makes them good thieves.
Yes.
And so that part will stick out.
How old was Pope? Who just passed?
Wasn't like 88?
He's up there, though. I mean, so everybody in that crowd who could be in that pool of potential new popes, they've really been vying for this job for the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's not going to last forever, right?
No.
So it's not like out of a clear blue slate, okay, guys, now what do you want to do? It's like people have been thinking about this.
Yes, right. And he's been sick. He was sick the last number of months. And so, like, probably 2 months ago, people were like, I don't know, Theodore, you might be a good one. Let's start talking to people.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm always watching your health because one of these days, if you're gone, I'm taking over.
Yeah, Dan's taking over. Was that a cough over there? Maybe you got the tuberculosis.
Mike and I can start vying for that chair.
I'm not in, Dan. I'm the wrong guy.
I don't see any white smoke.
Okay, you're listening live from the path. So I don't know, interesting stuff to be praying for, regardless of whether you're Catholic or not. It is a force of which people recognize and believe Jesus is involved in, and so it is important. Just like if there's a CEO of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, like I'm not one of them, but I should still pray for the guy, and I care who they pick. So
I hate that you said that. Like I forget to pray for the things that are actually important to me. You know, and then I'm like, hey man, have you been praying for the CEO of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes? I'm like, well, no. Dang it.
I don't often
Didn't know
do
there
that.
was one.
But like I also will pray and then go, well, nothing else is coming to mind. I'm like, that's crazy. It's crazy that nothing's coming to mind. And it tells me, there's usually a really good indicator that like I'm just going through the motions a bit, that I'm not thinking. Because even if I just stopped and let my mind wander for 10 seconds, it would land on somebody or some situation of which I could offer up in prayer. And if I'm like the same, you pray for your wife, pray for your kids, pray for the day, make sure you don't say something you shouldn't do. And then I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready. And like that's it. It's not bad, but like it also feels like I'm just going through the motions if that's all I thought of. Because like there's whatever, people in the room who need prayer, their families and friends who need prayer, people at the church who need prayer, the guy who runs the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, like there's all kinds of people.
Yeah.
So, all right, you're listening live from the path. A few other things we were going to get to today. We're just going to cross that one off because I think we got all the way through it. Mike might have some Nope style advice, and so we'll see if it comes around. But we felt it just didn't feel right at the day of the Pope's death to give out Pope style advice.
Yeah.
It felt crass, and we've drawn a line somewhere. If we said, you know what, we're not going to do that. Yeah. So anyway, we may do some Nope style advice today.
Nope with an N.
Nope with an N. That's right. And then we had, it was an observation, and maybe I'm not sure. I don't know if it holds, but like, there seems like people who are wishy-washy in their faith, I've often found, also appear to be not standard behavior in their other like non-faith life, and I could just be sensitive.
That's a really nice way of saying that.
Yeah, does it seem right? Like non-standard. Like, and I don't like the way I'm proposing it because it feels like, hey, to faithfully follow Jesus, maybe you should aim for a 9-to-5 and a Subaru and a bit too much of a mortgage, and you don't care for your mother-in-law, like whatever the standard thing is. That's not what I mean, but like. It has seemed consistent that like I know lots of people where their faith seemed to like go wishy-washy. Their life outside of faith was doing the same thing. Like they were in, no one was in a job for more than 2 years, a year. And their marriage was great and it was the best it's ever been. And then it was terrible. And like, it's just a lot of it feels very dramatic to me. And I do. And sometimes I would say it felt like their faith is leading them. And sometimes it would feel like their faith is just nowhere to be seen. And like God has nothing to speak to in the variances of their lives. And I just have seen it so often. I was going to ask you guys is like, one, have you seen the same thing? And two, like, what is that? Like, what is it? What is causing this behavior? Like, because it's hard. It's hard. It has to be hard to go through.
Yeah,
it has to be hard to go through. And I don't. You don't make an idol out of stability. But like, how can you walk faithfully when it feels like you're just jutting your leg out all the time? And it feels like it's somewhat related to life decisions. And is it somehow something, I don't know, how would we counsel something like that? Because I think I've ineffectively counseled it.
Yeah, effectively. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So some people just, like, all they have known is chaos.
Yeah.
They were raised in chaos. Maybe there's an unstable family, maybe alcoholic parents. There's all kinds of different situations that can cause chaos. And then they become adults and they don't know how to not have chaos. Mm-hmm. So even if they have things all lined up perfectly for a while, they will self-destruct just because they're more comfort. they find comfort in the chaos.
Yeah.
which doesn't make sense because
It's unfamiliar to me.
Right. But my wife has had students at school that's basically what psychology said. The reason they do this is they need chaos, and it's like, okay, that made sense to her.
Yep.
In that setting that I have to disrupt the whole class. Why did you do that? You were doing great. You were getting A's. You were passing everything, and all of a sudden, I'm throwing tables.
It's like
just
Reese
need
Bobby
chaos.
from the Talladega Nights. Where he blows up the. Have you seen that, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the dad where they sit down at the Applebee's and he's like, I don't know, son, I just got to blow it up. And he's like walking down the road.
Some people just got to.
The old Reese Bobby.
I'm married, I got children, got a church, got a job, everything's doing great. And at some point they don't know how to handle that. Like I've had that for so long. I don't know I'm going to fail somewhere, so I might as well just go ahead and blow it up.
Okay, now that I relate to. I understand to say, like, the much more as you start to add stacks upon stable, you start to be grossly aware of your fallibilities, and you control the crash, as opposed to being worried all the time that you're going to make a mistake like some you may have made in the past and that will blow it up. You basically steer the plane into the ground as opposed to it getting shot out of the air type of situation. So like trying to control how it fails because you believe it's inevitable that it will. That it's not right, but like I get, like I guess that was my reaction, which is like, well, how do you help someone be more comfortable in the non-chaos? like with entropy diminishing, how do you, because to your point, like I have seen people, they're starting to go well, they're trending in the right direction, they're feeling good, they're establishing themselves, they're getting healthy relationships, they have money that they have never had in the past, like there's a stability to that. And then you're right. If it feels more like if that's not helping you to go, hey, I like this, I should keep this, you're not getting more comfortable, because where I would feel like, oh, you must be getting more comfortable. But if you're looking at it going, yeah, it seems like more that I can screw up. And so if I can blow this up a little bit, and maybe it's not like super consciously, but like you're just trying to control a little bit how the thing destructs. And so you're not having to carry the weight of all those things, because at another point, think of the responsibilities of the fellas in the room. Like, my stability is important to about 15 different things. And if I went off the rails, like there is a serious consequence to at least 3 or 4 of them. Whereas if I didn't, if I was unstable, no one would put things on top of that stability. And so whether I fail or don't fail, doesn't have as much of a consequence. Like there's a lot of impact to failing in a stable world. And so sometimes it's easier just not to be stable so that people don't stack the responsibility on top of it.
Now, to oversimplify it, in my mind, I always think, well, if the fruits of the Spirit are like things like love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and self-control and gentleness, all the things, that as you allow the Holy Spirit to take more control of your life, that it's okay to be out of chaos. You're more comfortable out of chaos. But there's certain people that just don't ever get there. Yeah. And I don't know, because they're not cultivating spiritually. That's a judgment on my part. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't accuse them of that. But I have seen other people in chaos come out of it because of God's like the center of their life now. And they've gone years, with like stability and success and growth spiritually and in relationships and the whole thing. Yeah. But then some don't.
And that goes back to maybe a little bit of what we talked about last week, is we were talking about like how, maybe it's a couple weeks ago, but what you believe, even theologically, if you're chasing highs and lows spiritually, like I know it feels boring to just be the guy who's like, I just read my Bible every day. Yeah. And I may or may not actually run into anybody and lay hands on a dude. Like it may not happen for 6 months. And like there's a stability in your walk with Jesus that he's not asking you to be Ben Foost superstar, disciple of the Lord. Like the stability is actually perfectly fine. And you're not having to gin up things to otherwise impress God. like, so what you believe about that type of thing can also like cause you to chase highs and lows. And so if you're chasing highs and lows spiritually, it's not as a surprise to me that you're chasing like the highs and lows will be happening in your physical life, or vice versa. Like, it's harder to hold on to, even though I've like, most people will keep the words like, yeah, I'm back in the same situation I was that I didn't want to be in, but at least I have the Lord. Yeah, I agree with that, but it's not. It's wrong to think that the Lord is intentionally like running you through these peaks and valleys. That is not the scriptures. Like, there's not evidence to me in the scriptures that those types of things are happening. What you end up having is a stability in places in ways of which it's not explainable, right? Where Paul's like, he could be in prison and he's not wigging out, even though his physical life is jumping up and down. He's stock solid.
He's sitting there singing hymns.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. It just, maybe it's running through because I'm frustrated by it. I'm frustrated watching people do it, and I'm frustrated at feeling like I don't know how to help. Like because like the way the things that I would recommend, I can just look and go, I don't know, like, stop doing unstable things, like stay at the job, make the car payment, like keep talking to your spouse, like don't go hang out with those dudes. And like, I get that they're not, things are compulsions, and it's not. I'm not saying at all that it's easy, but like, that's what's stable. And like, as you do that, you then start to, spiritually, like, don't go chasing things here and there. Like, just try to keep praying and try to like remind yourself of the true things that God has told you and stick with those things. And so anyway, like, I know it's not all that simple, but like, that's my point of frustration is like, I mean, I bet it's 24 folks that pastorally or relationally that the situations have come up, and I'm like, I just feel like I'm failing them because I don't know how to help it. But it's the same cycle of stuff. Mm-hmm. Same cycle of stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. This is fairly nuanced, right? But like, just listening to you put all this thing together, there seems to be like a couple major orb problems, right? Mm-hmm. Is especially the peaks and valleys, like, thought process, right? The whole point of following Jesus and having faith in who God the Father is it takes the focus off of you. Like, God has to still be good whether you perceive it or not.
Yeah.
Today, tomorrow, 3 months from now, whether your God just told you that you got to be naked for 3 years to prove what's going to happen to Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so if you get in a pattern where you're chasing spiritual highs and being affected by spiritual lows all the time, that's only from your perspective that it's a spiritual high.
Oh, yeah.
Or that it's a spiritual low, right? So you're still the main focus of the story. And so, is that dangerous? And will that lead you to believe that your perception of God changes based on how it's going for you, right? Like, that's unstable. Right? So like, the consistent part of being a Christian is the fact that God is consistent. Yeah. Everything else is not, and so the consistency that this is where it gets kind of melded up with the American dream a little bit, right? Because what you don't want to say is that being a Christian, or like, God has you set up to have a boring, stable life.
Yeah, you don't want to Adderall the Christian life.
Right? It's why people would rebel against it. They're like, oh, well, we need more rules because our life needs to look this way. We need to have more rules. We got to do this. We got to rein this in. We got to make sure we don't stay up past 9:30. You can't be within 3 miles of a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, this kind of stuff. Or no dancing, And so like, we do all this because we're like, it's a safe, consistent life. But the problem is all your consistency is built into Yahweh. He's consistent.
Yeah.
Right? And so like, if your life could be a chaotic mess, talk to any AA counselor, right? Or like, or a pastor, for heaven's sakes. Like, it's coming at you from 10 different directions on the different levels of depravity people have decided to sin their way into trouble. And you're like, good night. I haven't heard that one. I've been doing this for 25 years, But you can still have stability in Christ Jesus. That's where it's at. Your life is not a reflection of whether he's stable or not. And so I guess what I'm trying to point to is like, mostly those ups and downs are in the eye of the beholder. And so instead of chasing the ups and downs or even calling them ups and downs, right? You go, God is consistent. God is good. This is the situation I'm in. And like your choices start to become more consistent because as you start to follow Christ, you start to live a life that's not about you, right? It's ultimately about him. And secondarily, it's about everyone around you. And by the time that you get that order figured out, you're like, all right, God's general principles and heart really dictates a lot of my behavior right now. And then after that, I'm responsible for, or I care for X, 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 and X, and X. And so then by the time it comes down to you as the third priority in the whole shebang, you go, I actually can't do this. One, because consistent and loving God says that's not for you. Two, if I do it, it's going to have this effect on the other 10 people that I'm sacrificing my life for. And so by the time it gets down to me, the odds are now 12-1 against.
Yeah.
I just can't do this, you know?
Yeah.
I just can't. And so like, it's not all a spiritual problem. And I think that chaos thing is probably right to some aspect, but once again, it's still self-focused.
Yeah.
And so psychology will go, this is why they will do this. And once again, it goes back to like, this is informed, but not excused. You do this because it's still about you, right? And I don't think anybody's nailing this. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm way guilty of failing at these things, but there's a level that I will not fall to. I just won't, because God is still God, and I have way too many people that I've sacrificed parts of my life for that fall because I decided that I was. It's probably been 3 times this week where I'm like, I just can't do this. Even when it comes to like taking a day off of work, right? Like if I wanted to burn a day of PTO to go work on somebody's house for them, and I thought, you know what? I really want to do this, like just for me and for them. That's good, but I can't do this because the thing is that PTO, that paid time off, I'm going to need to go on vacation with my family. I can't do I can't just do this. I can't just take a day off to sit around and do nothing because I feel like I need a rest and a Sabbath. I can. But there's consequences to that, and they don't all fall on me. And I decided I got to go to work, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, there's just a certain level of doing this after a while that you're like, if it's not all about me, which you should figure out pretty quick that it ain't, you know? But the joy comes from all of that. That's the hardest part to see, is like, if you think that if I don't focus on me, no one will be out for my joy. Well, that's the story of the Bible. God says, I'm out for your joy. You do this. I am consistent. You follow me. You listen to me. You read that Bible even on days you don't want to. You need to find me good even if it's your life isn't, right? And those are the stories of the faith that people are like, that guy was awesome, right? Paul is classic for this. Dudes that are being like taken by a hostile terrorist government and held in there for 20 years and they're praying in their cell, you know, like telling the gospel to everybody, and they get out and they're smiling. They're like, yeah, God had me doing work in the cell, you know?
Yeah.
And like, these are all the things where you're like, now that's faith. That's what we're looking for. And so it's unfair to boil it down to, look, man, you're thinking about yourself too much, but it's 85% of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad too, because like no one likes to hear that. You don't want to hear that when you're going through the wishy-washiness and say, at the end of the day, dude, like, even your bad decisions are selfish, and like, not to pile on, but like you got to decide that like I can't, I won't choose, like, what I want is this thing. I'm not going to choose me.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose God and his direction for my life. I'm going to choose the people that I have some level of responsibility or influence on, or frankly, even just people who care about me. Because frankly, like, wishy-washiness puts people through the ringer just because they love you. And they got to watch the wishy-washiness.
Yeah.
And so...
it's a hard word, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't easy going down. It ain't easy coming out.
No.
Right? Like, because I'm just as guilty as everybody else in this particular area. But it is the truth, right? Like, it is largely a focus on yourself, how you feel. It's like, and that's a cultural thing. That is, how you feel about something has become the top card in just about the way that almost our entire modern culture approaches something. And like, it is a super hard word to have to look at somebody and go, look, man, it doesn't matter how you feel.
Right.
Like,
right.
And I can't even, like, 20 years ago, I said, I don't care how you feel. Now I do care how you feel. I'm just saying it doesn't play into the cards. And that's unfortunate because it's going to feel worse for you, but feelings come and go, right? Consistent God stays the same all the time.
How many people over the years I've talked to who have like had affairs, and now they're trying to either figure out, do they break up the marriage up? Do they go with a new person, and what's going on? It's always a selfishness thing. The whole thing is selfish. I felt good about this. This person, I felt like they loved me more than my other person did, or whatever. And I always think, well, what has kept me from doing? Well, for one thing, I've never had the opportunity, I guess. But why do I never put myself in the opportunity? I've
You're
thought
an ugly
before.
man, Dan.
I've thought before. What if the opportunity presented itself someday? Like, how would I battle that?
Yeah.
So I'm not overly judging other people. Like, well, what do I have in place to make sure that say someone threw themselves at me, and I'd be like, whoa, it's all those other people that you have counting on you is part of it. Well, number one, I made a promise to God, so I'm not going to let him down to my best of my ability. But I have a wife I made a vow to, so I owe her, whether I'm happy or not, or whatever, this or that, I still owe her. I have children who have a certain view of me that would destroy if I started doing that. I'm a pastor, so I have who knows how far that goes, the waves, the ripple effects of that kind of, there's so many reasons to not do it.
Yeah.
And none of them have anything to do with me. It's other people. That helps center you, keep you stable, I guess, is when you waver yourself in any issue. That's affairs came to mind because it seems like you hear about that periodically. Yeah. And I think it's the ultimate selfishness right there.
Yeah, and I think that is harder for people because we are culturally surrounded with an elevation of your feelings. Mm-hmm. Like, I felt like a thing, and like it's not always like they're not all craven. Like, sometimes you just got a feeling that goes, look, I'm just feeling like, to Mike's example, I ain't not feeling great today. And like, I just don't really want to go into work. It would be great to just sit here and get some rest and rest it out. But Mike ends up doing the thing that you don't want to do because for all the other reasons. And like, so the feelings had to go, yes, but you weighed against these other responsibilities and situations and things that are important to other people. I'm going to have to go do the thing. And like, I think we have, I think there's a wrong, I'm sure we've talked about this, that like you can overdo it. It's like your feelings do matter. It's true that you're feeling them. Whether they're lying to you or not is a separate question. But like, even if they are true, it doesn't mean that they always get the loudest voice at the table. Like, sometimes, like, there's all kinds of just think of the things that we call the temptations. Like, these are all feelings that you have that you're like, am I going to act on this or not? Am I going to spend my time thinking about this thing? Am I going to take action on this thing? Am I going to harbor these feelings towards someone else, either whether it's ill will, resentment, or lust, or whatever it is? Like, you got to choose as to whether, like, it might feel good it feels good to be angry at certain people. It feels good to look a little longer at certain people. And like, all those things may actually feel good to you, but it doesn't mean they're righteous, and it doesn't mean they're serving you, and it doesn't mean that they're serving other people. And so, like, regardless of whether you feel them or not, those feelings cannot be honored. And so I think that's difficult, like, without dismissing that, like, hey, I know this is if you don't get to the feeling part, it's harder to solve. Then you're always just playing defense. Like, you got to figure out, why am I so angry? Why am I even spending any time lusting after someone? Maybe I got some idle hands or something. Like, what you do have to still solve the feeling thing, because otherwise your life's just 10 times harder playing defense all the time.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't matter that at the end of the day, like, your feelings don't have to be honored. And I think we've done a disservice on that, as if it's just blind allegiance. Sometimes it is. Sometimes, like, it just means, like, you just put a gate that can't open to keep you out of things, regardless of how you feel about it, because it's important. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, you're listening to Live from the Path. Maybe you got did we get that right? Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe you've experienced this and we're missing an angle on it, or you've dealt with it or involved with people who dealt with it, and you've got some recommendations. We'd love to hear them. That's you can give us a call or text at the Live from the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085. That's call or text 515-517-0085 at the Live from the Path complaint line. We'd love to be able to hear your thoughts.
All right, this actually ties in a little bit to my nope style advice.
Nope style advice. Okay.
Because I was just thinking about it the other day, and it's not only something that's true with me, but it's true with quite a few people around me right now, is like they're waiting for something. They're waiting for God to do something. And it occurred to me that the tendency is to move it, the thing that you're waiting for God to show up in and to interact with. And it could be a health issue. It could be a sickness. It could be people who walked away from him. It could be a job opportunity that you're just like, God, I just need you to answer. It's whatever, right? And so like, there's plenty of biblical examples of trusting God in the waiting. But I think the part that came to my head was the idleness in the waiting. That I think can actually, you're basically playing for the other team now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we used to talk about this. There was a fella back in the day that we knew really well, and it was pretty much what we just got done talking with. It's like these up and down roller coasters. Be doing great, then be doing terrible. Doing great, doing terrible. And it occurred to me at the time that like spiritually, like basically if the opposition, the opposer can take down one guy, he was taking down 5 at a time.
Yeah. Right?
Because everybody was following the highs and lows of everything this cat was doing. And I'm like, this isn't good. This doesn't seem like how we're being so easily swept up in this, right? It's great to care about somebody and about their well-being and how's it going and be excited for them when they're following Jesus and all is well. But then like they end up getting arrested or falling off the wagon or causing a bunch of trouble. And then like your stomach hurts and then you're worried about them all the time. And you're like, and then your whole life is not operating anywhere to the way that it was or to the glory of God or to your joy or people around you, because this one event just keeps happening over and over again. And I thought that's not good. Like it doesn't mean that it's either care a lot or apathetic. Those aren't the only two options, but somehow we have to keep on doing the things that God created us to do while we're waiting for him to show up. And I think my Pope style advice is it's healthy to pray consistently for God to show up in a thing, for people around you, for you, for a big thing, this big obstacle you see in your life. But it is not the only thing that he is doing. And it's not the only thing that you're designed to do. You weren't designed to like live following Jesus and then boom, this one thing shows up and now your entire pursuit of him or actions for you or people around you goes completely on hold while you're like, okay, I'll just wait until God redeems this part and then I will be back on track. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be, you know? And so I try to say that I want to be real light and careful in the way that I say that, because like some of these things are very hard and they are life-changing hard, and your life is not going to look exactly like it did. But while you're asking for God to redeem and show up in his perfect timing and his perfect will to allow these things to come to fruition, I think the idle part is dangerous, right? Of just sitting and waiting, and you're like, I have faith, I'm just going to wait. And like, I get that. But I think the waiting in our minds implies that you're going to do nothing else but wait until this situation's resolved. And then your life can get back on track to whatever it was supposed to be. And that thing might not happen in the time frame that you have in mind, even a time frame that you find tolerable. In fact, by the time it gets to there, while you were idly waiting, it could have broken you in the meantime. And then all of a sudden, the God that you depended on to come to fruition and to bring about his mighty right hand to fix a thing, you're actually no longer following because you were waiting for him to do a thing. And he's like, yeah, I hear you, but it ain't going to be a year. It ain't going to be 2 years. It ain't going to be 10 years. It's going to be whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I think the Pope style advice is like, if you're in the midst of one of these situations where you're like, God, I know you are faithful in this, and I know you will do this thing, and I will patiently wait because you are good. And you're like, yes, that's where I need to be. I think the advice is that's kind of where you need to be. I think that's good and right. But just be careful on how much weight that you're hinging the rest of your life on and the rest of the things that God has you doing. You're not so one-dimensional in a way. And like, I realize this is probably a hard word for people with like very life-changing circumstances, that they're like, my life doesn't even look close to what it looked like until X showed up or this thing happened or whatever. But the truth is like, now you've boiled your entire existence down and God's faithfulness down to this one thing. And it can't hold it that way, right? He is faithful and good in a lot of things, and he is worthy of praise in the meantime while you're waiting. And he does have things for you to do in his good world while you're waiting for the time and perspective to match his. And so the Pope style advice is just when you're going to wait, I don't even know if I could tell you to do it with joy, because some things are just hard, but do it with a consistent eye that is not the only aspect of your life. And if God's going to redeem it, you're not pushing it along farther by patiently doing nothing in the meantime.
Yeah. I think that's super thoughtful, because I think we are prone to being consumed by situations that are in front of us, especially situations that we believe only God can move. And so you spend all your time focusing on prayer and being watchful and waiting for God to answer a thing. And like, we run the risk of not being useful to ourselves and to the people around us, because like we took a time out when like the rest of the thing kept playing.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the situation kept occurring. Like there's plenty of people who have done great work in serving others and loving people like God wants them loved and spreading good news, even while their marriage is not yet healed from some pain that occurred. And had that person like just bowed out and said, Lord, because it means so much to me, that's the part that feels righteous, because like it means so much to you, or like, you know, it is just that big, it's life-changing. And so you're like, but in effect, you became self-fulfilling. It did change your life because you stopped your life waiting for God to step in, as opposed to going back to our, in some relation to the old wishy-washy situation, which is that like God is the stability regardless of those things. And so even as the answer yet tarries, there is still goodness to be walked in, even pending the result. And what the heck? At a macro, this is our whole Christian experience. There is like a very big promise coming. And it is not yet in fruition, and it does right all the wrongs of which we are very well aware of. And either we can stop and wait for it to show up, or we walk in obedience until the thing comes to reality. And so like that's the macro story for every Christian in the world. And now shrink it down to whatever your thing is, where you're like, God is going to redeem this, or God, I need you to answer this thing. And I still got to wake up tomorrow and bake eggs and, you know, interact with these people and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's hard because the thing is important. I think it's righteously important.
I think that I honestly, what I think it boils down to is like, if you still care about it and you still care about the person or the situation or the thing that you need God to be involved with, it hurts too much to continue to not be apathetic to it. Which is why we try to do that, right? Like, what would be easiest for you and less burdensome is if you didn't care about it. And so sometimes we go that route. We're like, it's just going to be what it's going to be, you know? And you're like, I'm out. There's nothing I can do. God's going to handle this. And like, that sounds half faithful too. But like, it's okay if it weighs something, right? It's also okay to take that weight and throw it back on your Creator and go, God, this is heavy. And I wasn't built to carry that. And I'm pretty sure you know that. And so I have to, like, it's an exercise in faith to keep throwing it back to Him every day and going, I can't carry this, but I also am still breathing on your good world. Help me figure out what today looks like without letting this entire thing eclipse all of my being. Because I wasn't created for that. This is your weight to carry. And like, that sounds like you're bailing completely, but what you're actually doing is exercising your faith. And that's what it looks like to trust a God. And so, anyway, I just know that there's enough big things that people are like, I'm waiting for God to do this. I'm waiting for Him to redeem. I'm waiting for Him to open eyes. I'm waiting for Him to heal. And all these things are like, they are heavy. And I don't think anybody's saying, yeah, just set it down and smile and skip off to work. That's outrageous. No one's saying these things, but I think it's too much, right? It's too much to be like, this is the hinge point of which when God is faithful in this way, my life can get back to where it used to be. It's already not that, right? It's not a diversion. It's not a detour. You made a left turn. And so let's take the left turn. God is still faithful in the left.
Yeah. So I mean, to sum it up for like a bumper sticker, it would be something to the extent of instead of waiting while God is working, just be walking while God is working. Like, just keep moving, trying to live the life, like whatever life it is that you have, and whatever barriers they have, and whatever things that are going on around you. Like, there's a finite amount of things you can walk faithfully in while God is doing what he's doing. But like, it's almost certain that his intent is not for whatever you're doing to just stop until he answers or until he makes a move. Yeah. Because plenty of things, which may even contribute to how God ultimately resolves it, happen while you're still walking in faithfulness, while we pend for his timing to otherwise resolve.
This one's a hard word too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hear you, especially if you got sensitive ears right now and you're talking about me and you don't I do kind of understand where you're coming from. And I think I do kind of understand, and I kind of get it. And I know it's hard to hear. Yeah. Like, you're like, I don't think you really understand the full weight of what I'm going through. And I think that's true. I probably don't from your perspective at all, but I know the alternative to what we just said is not good. That does not produce any of the things that will actually help you in the time of which you're struggling.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to Live from the Path. We're going to do one more thing, and then we'll get you some advice. And I was going to talk about this, but I think maybe I'll just see if you guys have any quick reactions, and we can move on. Last Sunday was Easter Sunday, and I was taking a shower in the morning, and I had not otherwise planned it. Like, we did like a liturgy that I had drafted, which is just like a combination of scripture and then tunes that we perform. Whatever. It's just something like everyone can participate in Easter. Otherwise, you're just going to sit and listen to me talk again, which we normally do. And so anyway, we're going to do that, and everybody likes it because it goes fast, and everyone gets out of there on time. And Mike was going to do, I think, a tune, and then we were going to call it a day. And like, I was taking a shower, and like, it just kept hanging on me. Like, we don't understand grace correctly. But it was more specific. It was more to like relationships. It ran up to how we think about ourselves and God, but it was expressing itself in the way that we interact with our key relationships with like spouses, friends, children, parents, that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that like it came from there was a Facebook clip of Mark Driscoll, and he had said, like, I don't know, within the last few weeks, and the thing he had said was, before you fall out of love, you fall out of grace. And that was like that. I don't remember what else was going on, but that particular thing stuck with me. And so the reason I'm sharing it now, though, is it just felt so relevant to, if you think about, key relationships that you have, like, before you would ever say, hey, you probably would never come to the terms and go, hey, spouse, I don't love you. But like, you give up on how gracious you are with them much, much quicker. Like, it's a very low barrier. And think of like, spouses are the hardest because you're used to their behavior. They act how they act, and they probably have been acting that way for years. And so your patience for that, your grace to overlook it, your grace to be able to go, not only do I forgive that, but I'm going to help reconcile their problem, not just make sure that they understand that I'm pissed about it. It's so easy to lose because it's so hard to actually continue with. And same thing with your kids or kids to parents, like, my dad's always like that. Or, the kids this is the 10th time and they never seem to learn and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not asking you just like whitewash over all the things that might, need to improve in some of these relationships. But I am saying that your heart about it needs to be the 70 times 7 type of heart. Needs to be the God looks at me And of all the things that, like, maybe I'm irritated because my kids have for the 50th time not done something that we've set clear expectations on, and my heart's getting a little mad about it. And then I think, well, God is in that same situation with me, and he seems to be handling this very gracefully. Like he still seems to love me and is not like trying to throw me over the coals. In fact, he keeps continuing to provide a helper to try to help me get it right, as opposed to just going, Ben, I want you to know how wrong you have it. Now fix it right now. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to send the helper. Because I genuinely want you to get to the place where the things that you're doing align. And so I thought of that it was just hitting me on how many times have I been ungracious with my wife because, there she goes again, doing the thing that makes me irritated. And it's not that you can't notice it, just like God always notices, he's going to notice you falling short. It's just his heart positioning towards you, in those behaviors is so kind and so gracious. And sometimes I feel like I realized personally, and I felt like this maybe had some relevance to everyone, is that I have lowered the bar of what it means to extend grace to my wife and to my kids and to my friends, probably, in that I was measuring it by hold my tongue, or I didn't bail from the situation. Like I refused to take a phone call or said, look, I'm not going to listen to this anymore and whatever. I don't really do that. But like, as opposed to that, not only staying in those situations and not only just like holding back a little bit of what I might say, but genuinely extending grace to this person and thinking of them in a gracious way. And not like spending all my time on here's how you let me down, but actively helping them to get to a point of reconciliation, that is a much higher bar. And I feel like I'm not doing a great job on that. And I think it's because I had not considered the standard of the grace that I've been extended to Jesus. I get it. I do. I understand that part. But his attitude towards that, like, which is baked into his grace towards me, I think, not spent too much time reconciling what that means to how I have to think or should be thinking about people around me. And so anyway, I just was going to share that. It stuck with me. And it doesn't mean that you're on your way to getting a divorce or like not talking to your kids again. But I will just say that, like, your standard of, if it's like I extended grace by holding my tongue, I'm sorry, sir. It's not what we were after, actually. Like, we need not the negative thing. We need the positive thing. Okay, so times -1, head in the other direction. Not only do you not get to just not hold your tongue, you're going to say something kind, and you're going to be gracious toward how you think about them. And if it's happened for the 10th time, you're going to go, they must be really struggling. How can I help them get that thing reconciled? Because I love them and I want to see a change in them. I'm not going to overlook it, but like, that's my attitude towards it, not just, I'm not going to say anything there. See, I was gracious. It's not, we've cut the word out a little bit, and I have, or at least it's not sticking with me. So anyway, I was just going to share that in case that's helpful to anybody. It was necessary for me.
Yeah, and I think that attitude of grace actually does not. Sometimes we associate grace and kindness with not saying a hard thing, and that's not true. Right? Like, you still can say true things that might be hard to hear out of an attitude of grace and kindness. So, like, it doesn't abdicate you some responsibility or even some authority, honestly, about some of the realities. And, like, I suppose they take it how they're going to take it. But, like, you can, it's your heart posture is the issue that we need to address, right?
Yeah, the hard thing you're saying is still coming from an attitude of reconciliation, when most of the time our attitudes are like, we just feel burned. Somebody burned me. Someone ignored my preference. They ignored my word. They caused me some sort of grief or whatever. And I want it known. I want it to be clear, especially marriages is so hard. It's like, I want you to know you've inconvenienced me. I want you to know that I'm frustrated because this is something that we had agreed to and you let me down. And basically, a lot of our attitude is reflected. Our priority is that people know how much I am put out by whatever the situation was. That's not the heart of grace. The same behavior still needs reconciled. I'm just like the gracious attitude. Like God doesn't do that to me. He doesn't go, Ben, I need you to know how put out I am by your shortcoming. He makes me aware of it. I still need to change it, but his attitude is one that extends it to me and tries to help me and provides help and moves me into fixing the situation to the best I can. But it doesn't have to be self-justified. And that's where a lot of our stuff is. Like you notice, parents, you'll notice this, like, I didn't raise you to be this way. This is not about you. Why are you saying this thing? Mm-hmm. Like you made something about you just now.
Yeah.
And like, hey, you know, you put like I know why you're doing it, because you're trying to help your kids contextualize that like your behavior matters. It hits other people. That's not wrong. I understand that too. But I'm just telling you that regardless of the words you're using, your heart isn't actually out for like reconciliation and you're thinking about them. You're thinking about you and you want people to understand how mad you are. And like it's total human behavior. It just isn't gracious behavior. Like that attitude is so hard to get to, but like it's just a much higher bar. And I think if you realize how hard it is for you to do in your human relationships, then you become much more thankful of what it means for God to react the way he does to you. And I think we know that. I think most Christians will be able to go, yes, I should be gracious to other people. God forgives me, so I forgive them. But you've made it an exchange of, like, I don't know, a words or something, or a ledger in your mind, and you've completely removed the attitude or the posturing around what it is to be gracious. Jesus not only gives it, but he sacrifices to make it happen. You're not doing that often. And so anyway, it's hard. If that doesn't hit you hard, I think you're not understanding it. But anyway, extend the grace, and it's an attitude issue.
All right, ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Dear Life from the Path, I have a 16-month-old who has recently learned to walk. My mom was watching him one day a week while I worked part-time, but she ultimately decided it was too much stress on her back and said she could no longer lift him. Lately, she has been telling me I need to, quotes, train him to do certain things in order for her to watch him without lifting him. For example, climb into his own car seat. Life from the Path, he's too young to consistently do anything like that. It's no longer possible for her to put him in his car seat, lift him to put him in his crib, high chair, etc. She's being very pushy about me finding alternative ways to do things that ultimately will make more work for me. I think it would be safer and easier to pay an able-bodied caregiver. Talking to her about this has become stressful because she calls me, quotes, crazy for thinking this is a safety concern. If we're at the park and he does something unsafe, I pick him up and remove him because he is not yet a reliable listener. How do I discuss this with her in a kind but firm way, and is my concern valid?
I'm missing something. Like, just get someone else to watch the kid for another, I don't know, for the next 6 months or whatever, till he can mostly. I mean, there's always going to be a risk that for a kid needs to be pulled out of a situation and you're not capable of doing it. And maybe you want to roll the dice on that in about a year. But I mean, doesn't it seem super easy to go just have someone else watch him for a while?
Yeah, this is the weird part, is it sounds like they're in agreement.
Yeah.
Old Meemaw said, hey, my back can't handle this no more.
But you got to make it work.
Yeah, but like, if that kid can climb into his own car seat, then we might have it. And then she's like, hey, I need people to be able to pick the kid up. Sounds like we're in agreement. You're not the right person to do it. But the mom calls her crazy for thinking this is a safety concern. There's weirdness in here somewhere. Something's not making any sense.
Yeah.
Also, you work a part-time job one day a week? I mean, how big is this linchpin? You know?
Okay. Yeah. So this feels relatively straightforward. Like you're gonna need to find someone else to watch this kid.
Do you think the mom's like, I just want to spend time with him, but I can't be the sole caregiver of this monster. I can't pick stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, she can't help that.
Seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Physical limitations.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a health issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't it feel like the person writing the letter is taking advantage of her mom, and doesn't want to not does I guess I can't tell. It's hard to tell whether she's like, hey, does my mom actually even have these problems? Or
No, I don't feel that.
Okay, so to your point, if they just agree, then like, what was the final question?
The mom feels like she still wants to spend time with the kid.
Yeah.
But she's unwilling to admit that her inability to pick him up could be a problem. Right? She's like, really, our only obstacles are getting in the car seat, getting out. And then the mom's like, that ain't the only obstacles.
Yeah.
Right? Like, getting all kinds of stuff, you know?
Okay.
And so I think it sounds to me like the mom is like, she knows that she can't do it, but she doesn't like, the fact that she's too weak to do it. Like, she's the cause of why this isn't going to work out. Mm-hmm. And then so now she's just reframing history a little bit as if this is not going to be a deal. And if the car seat problem was handled, then obviously all would be well. And that's not true.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So I think the advice then is, one, you need to find someone else to watch your kid half a day, 1 day a week or something. But second of all, like, I assume it sounds like mom could probably still drive. Like, come on over and visit, mom. We'll hang out with the baby.
Yeah.
I'll be here. Like, you can even, read in the other room or something. Like, if they want to hang out to it, as long as someone's around to help pick a kid up in case there's some kind of trouble.
Yeah, I think when your kid crosses maybe 7 or 8 are the times when, like, you're done kind of picking them up and yanking them out of something. Like, by the time they're about that age, you're like, hey, get out of there,
Yeah.
Or there they go. They just wandered outside. But, like, up until that age, I mean, this is why people don't sleep and why having toddlers in the house and why we have those plastic things we put in outlets. You're like, you never know what this wild man going to do, and you can't keep an eye on them every single microsecond. So you do a little safety around the house to keep them out of trouble. But odds are you're going to have to run and grab them.
Yeah.
And
totally.
so, yeah, it's straight foolish to believe that there's any situation of which she should probably be left alone as the sole caregiver, apart from maybe he's already in a nap or something. All right. Okay, the question was, though, how do I discuss this with her in a kind but firm way? And is my concern valid? We agree the concern's valid.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem all that difficult. Be like, I agree.
Yeah.
You can't pick him up. I do think until he's able to do this on his own in a reliable manner where he's also making good choices, if he can make a bad choice and someone still could have to yank him out and you can't do it, like, I would never want to put you in that position.
And so this is actually the crux of the letter is the gal who wrote in says, talking to her about this has become stressful because she calls me crazy for thinking this is a safety concern. So I think the grandma is in just a little bit of a denial on her age and abilities. And
well, but if it wasn't a safety concern, I see what you said that she's just limited to like the car seat situations. Like she's not thinking.
She's framing it as if the car seat's the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
The mom is like, it's all the problem.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, whatever. Maybe her mom's just like manipulative. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to make sure your kid's taken care of. I think I would say, Mom, we disagree on this, and like if I'm wrong. It sets everybody up for bad. The kid's in rough shape. It would make you feel guilty if something ever happened. And so, like, maybe I'm overreacting, but this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. I mean,
Secular says, you are not crazy. Of course your concerns are valid. Your son is years away from being able to do what your mother is suggesting. End those discussions. She needs to be told kindly but firmly that she loves her grandson, but he needs more hands-on care than she is able to give him, which is why you are hiring someone to do it. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty straightforward.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
Okay, last one. Dear Live from the Path. My husband and I finally got custody of his daughter, Amelia, 15 days before her 16th birthday.
Whoa.
She came to us with homeschooling and little socialization. Now she's 18, and we've gotten her on track to graduate, but she has completely changed. She plans to move in with her boyfriend and is skipping school. My husband feels we can't get on her case about it since we've only had her for 2 years. We've had 3 boys who have graduated and 2 girls who haven't yet. We made the boys, his stepsons, go to school every day and live at home until they graduated. We will do the same with our younger girls. Live from the Path, why is he scared for me to tell Amelia that she can't move out until after graduation, especially not with her boyfriend, or get on her about missing school all the time?
Yeah, he's worried about protecting the relationship, but he's going about it in the wrong way. First of all, you said she's 18, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, she could leave now if she wants to.
Yeah.
We talked about this, I want to say a week or two ago. Like you got to realize where you don't have any control. We're actually thinking this is going to happen at my place, and I think it's going to be a little bit messy. And that, like, I have an 18-year-old who is not going to move out, but we homeschool. She's going to be done schooling under our direction. And is going to have a job and this type of thing. And like, we've got all the things that you would think as a parent. Like, I've got monitoring services on her phone, and there's just, and her time, like, hey, I care how much she spends, and you can't use her cell phone in the living room and watch movies all night and all kinds of things where you're like, hey, as a parent, these were our limits. And like, I'm not sure all those continue to qualify just because you're living under our roof. Like, they could. But like, when you were responsible for your schooling and some other things, then they made sense to me. I think there's a point, regardless of whether I think she's going to be wise with it, that I'm not sure it makes sense for us to continue to monitor or try to restrict. And we're more in the encouragement role. Like, I hope we can influence her to making good decisions, but we got to get out of the bucket of which we can force them, because like, it doesn't help her transition to a life in which she has to, end up actually making her own decisions. And so, I think this cat here is worried that because she could bail, that if you overpressure on school and these other things, that she might just go, give you the right couple of fingers and then head on out the door. And he doesn't want to force that. But that's too short-sighted. Like, if you're being over aggressive on some of these things, then you need to back off. But if the thing that you're doing is for her protection, or it's wise, or it's good parenting, then you should do that anyway. And just know that, like, sometimes people make bad choices in reaction to that thing. And like, I hope that she doesn't, but like, you can't control it. And so what you can't do is like completely tiptoe around people and hope not to offend or make your kids mad at you by parenting them, lest they make a bad decision. I know it, and it comes from totally the right types of places, but it will not end up well. And so I would say, but that's why it's not because he's being a real sissy. He just cares about the relationship. He's worried that if you press too hard, that she will make a bad decision, and you should be thoughtful about that. That's not the same thing as a guy being a real wiener and who doesn't want to discipline children. Like, it comes from a different position, be my guess. And so just be careful. But I think he is still approaching it wrong. I think you make sure your boundaries are reasonable and set them, and go ahead and continue to hold them.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what has happened that they got custody at 16, and she was in a homeschool situation. So that would imply to me that it's a family that was caring for her and engaged in her life, and now suddenly she's with them, and then her life, like, the wheels have fallen off.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out what to do or how to keep them on. Gosh, that's a hard...
It would make sense. Like, that explanation would be very helpful. Only, Claire, I've seen homeschool both ways, right? I've seen homeschool with very involved, very attentive parents, and I've seen homeschools where they're like, hey, our kid's causing too much trouble. We got to homeschool him.
Yeah, right. It's almost like this kid got denim sprung, like they went out on sprung out where they got involved in all the things they never saw before, and they just embraced the lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, the flat out, like, some of the things, Ben saying, like, part of growing and figuring out how to be adult is screwing some stuff up. And like, what you're hoping for is it's not super permanent things or, like completely crazy life altering things. And so, I mean, it's pretty classic that, your kid's going to get in a relationship that you're like, I hate this. I hate everything about this. This is not good for you. These are not good decisions, and like, it's usually not forever. That's usually not the path. But like, you offer, like Ben says, like, your house is consistent. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the way that we act here, and like, I know that there's a certain extent where you're like, hey, these are the rules under my roof and you're going to follow them. These are the rules under my roof for people who are of school age or we're training to be adults, right? But once you get there, the rules change for the adults in the house, right? And so maybe you get the phone or whatever, or maybe you can watch movies all night. You're the one that's got to pay the consequence and get up at 6:30 and do responsible adult things. And so like some of that stuff is letting them fail. And like, I agree, like the skipping school part, that's a problem. You're going to have to address that. She chooses to move out and live with her boyfriend and fail out of school. I'm not 100% what you think that you're going to do about it. You could probably cut like funding out of her life if you're paying for like gas and insurance and occasional fun time food because they're going to school. That's a privilege of living at your house and comes with your protection and love. So I mean, you pull that stuff if you want to, as just not out of anger or spite, but just like, hey man, that's kind of the deal. You're here. I know that you're restricted because of some of my rules. We're going to take care of these things on your behalf because you're doing these things, But like, as soon as that's no longer the deal, you can be like, I'm not going to pay you gas money to do whatever the heck I don't know even what you're doing, And so I think there's a reasonable approach here that goes, you're a little bit too, you can't control everything. You just can't control anything. And that doesn't come out to be apathy, but it does also mean that like, you might be thinking too highly of yourself. Kids will do this. Almost every generation that I know, that even with a good, solid family, there's a couple eggs in there that just cut their own trail, and you're like, what are you doing? That's not even how it was mirrored to you growing up, and you're acting like a complete fool, and you're like, what did they do wrong? I mean, sometimes people got to cut their own trail and hurt themselves in the midst of it, and the hard part is to watch it, but the loving thing to do is to maintain a relationship without changing any of the consistency that you're actually calling them back to. And so that'll be hard to do. But I think as long as they're still living under your house, and like, I assume she's still eating your food. She's probably driving a car you bought her, all the stuff, right? And so like, you can be like, listen, these are privileges for being a daughter or son of the king. And if you're going to like disrupt the kingdom or try to change the kingdom or give the kingdom the finger, the kingdom no longer provides royal vehicles. That's just regular, All right. Sorry. Secular says, your husband may fear that Amelia is too headstrong to be reasoned with and worry that if he asserts himself, his daughter will become estranged. You described yourself as, quotes, stern stepmom. If the way you demonstrate that is by insisting your husband's children graduate with a basic education, I consider it heavy-handed. Oh, I don't consider it heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Okay. However, if there's more to it, Amelia may be moving out to get away from you. Perhaps a different approach might be more effective. Amelia is old enough to be talked with woman to woman. If you can impress upon her that you and her father care only about her welfare, that the decisions she is making now will affect her entire future, perhaps she will be more open to hearing your message. The fact that she's moving out is less important than failing to complete her education and get the high school diploma. Let that be your focus when you and her dad speak to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. That feels a little disconnected to me from being around teenagers. But like overall, like you can have a woman to woman or man to man talk with a 17-year-old. And I think you should do it because it's the right thing to do. But I would not expect that it would revolutionize the world. I think that your consistent behavior gives them a foundation to fall back to when they figure it out on their own. Yeah, totally. Like, and this is why, like, how you approach some of these things is super important. Is that, like, you know, people, when people start to, I don't know, act outside of like the good boundaries, they're going to notice it because, like, they're going to realize that, like, they're going to see it in themselves that they're the ones doing it. Because you're stable. If you follow them out there, their boundary seems reasonable to have gotten out that far because look how much you're overreacting. And now you got two people running outside of boundaries. But like, if you can just say, if you're predictable, you're stock solid, like your decision making is like they could have guessed it before it even happened. I think it gives them, then they realize that they're the ones changing and they have to reckon with that. And like, they're going to be doing all kinds of reckoning with whether they're changing correctly or not and how they're being influenced or whatever. And sometimes, to your point, in the right direction, sometimes in the wrong direction. But like, you just cannot force things. And like the more that you will try to over crank on it, like they will rebel against that. It's built in them to not
to go out and do things on their own. I don't think God put it in them. And so the more you can't try to live your life vicariously through them, you can try to help your best to get them to make right decisions and influence them and use the tools at your disposal to do so. But I would just make sure that like she's not, that this kid is not rebelling against places of which you are being unnecessarily heavy-handed. I would triple check yourself because like everything sounds reasonable until you but if you said, does this make sense for a 17-year-old? Does this make sense for an 18-year-old? How long does this make sense? Like if this is still going on, if this kid lived at your house when they were 21, would you still be like, and then why are you drawing the barriers that you're drawing? It's a helpful exercise and you should really think through that just to make sure you're not pouring oil on a fire.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part, like especially as your kids get a little bit older. Is like people learn lessons by failing, right? If your kids still own no alarm clock because you wake them up every morning and they're 17 and a half, be like, hey man, I'll get you the alarm clock, but you have to start getting yourself up in the morning,
right?
Yeah, right? Like we got to learn how to do this, you know. Like if they forget to pack a lunch and you're still running one up to the school, right? You're not doing any favors. You're like, you're gonna be hungry today. Let that ride,
Yeah.
There were times my daughters would forget a band instrument or something, or a piece of some homework, important homework, and I have a flexible enough schedule. I would run it up there, but I kept thinking, man, at what point do I just say nope?
Yeah, right. It's hard because like here's the thing: I don't want my kids to learn the lesson that dad won't be there to help when they need it,
because they put work into it. I mean, it wasn't like they were just there, whatever. I was like. Yeah. So like you got to pick and choose your battle. It's the same thing, and like this is way too much of a rabbit hole, so we won't spend a bunch of time on it. But like, I mean, I didn't let our kids cry it out because like I don't want them to learn the lesson that I won't come when they need me. Right.
I want them to know I will come when they need me. So like I don't want to learn the wrong thing.
Right.
But to Mike's point, like I also will not have the ability and do not want to come wake them up every morning if I can avoid it.
Definitely.
And so you're not helping them by not allowing them to learn that responsibility.
I mean, some of that actually goes back to our other conversation of wishy-washy behavior. Is like a lot of them folks like the consequences never quite fully landed on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so they're like, like they never quite had to feel the full brunt of some of the things they did because it got absorbed by everybody around them. And so like they're running on a different scale, and until they had to feel that a little bit, then they're like, actually, I personally have to do something different here.
Yeah.
Because like I can't continue to do this.
You know what's funny? So I actually have a relevant example at my house right now. Is that like my wife and I were talking a few weeks ago, and I had done something that she was not very happy with. But like part of the conversation that came out, she was like, "Hey, there's been laundry that's been sitting here for 4 days, the same load," and like, I mean, I'll be honest, fellas, I did not know that. And I live in the house. I walk by the laundry's in our bathroom. And like realistically, it's not that I looked at it and go, well, I'm not going to do that. I literally just did not occur to me. And so I remember after that conversation that like we did not actually resolve the key thing that she was not happy with me about. I think we're actually still at odds on that one. But I thought that laundry thing, I can do that. There's just no reason for this type of thing. And so like she has not touched a load of laundry at our house for 2.5 weeks. I got us caught up. I keep us caught up. But like one of the things that's the problem though is that like I've been going and getting the kids' laundry. Because like the problem is if you let it go, everybody in the house has their own like basket, and then everyone gets it full at the same time, and so we go from no laundry to all the laundry. I said this is dumb. We're not gonna do that. And so I've been like, I'll be upstairs and I'll just grab one of the laundry baskets, got half a load in it, another one with half a load, and like thing runs like a top. It's going great.
Yeah.
But she said, she's like, hey. You're not teaching the girls right. Like they got to remember to bring their own laundry down. Like we're not preparing them for life if they're not bringing their own laundry down. And this is the place where I'm like, here's the thing. If I didn't want to do this laundry, yeah, totally. I want them to do their laundry. They should do it. But are you telling me, like realistically, if I kept this behavior up, they get 2 years down the road, they go to college, they go 1 weekend where they have dirty laundry, and what's going to happen? They're going to go, I have no idea. I must call dad and he will drive 6 hours. No, they'll go, crap. And they'll put the stuff in the laundry and they'll put the soap in and they'll wash it themselves. I'm not worried at all that they're not going to have this skill. And frankly, at the moment, it makes more practical sense to me to just do the laundry and keep it moving and have it not pile up and have other people not worry about it. And so that was the thing where like it's pretty standard for households to go like, yeah, we got to teach the kids responsibility by having them do their own laundry. I don't know. I'm not sure on that. Now, having them cook their own meals, well, yeah, because like that's actually kind of an acquired skill. Like you don't just show up and know how to cook meals, and so I think that takes time. But like the laundry, I don't care about that laundry at all. I think it's perfectly fine. So anyway, just a current example.
My kids been doing their own laundry since they were 10.
Yeah.
They rock it.
Nope. But we don't do it. We're terrible. It's a parenting problem because all the kids do it. All the kids have this problem, right? So like, we've failed them for sure in some way or another. I just don't know that trying to force something right now actually solves my... Like, it's more important to me that the things are just moving.
They can learn that one pretty quick.
Right, they're going to pick it up, and so I don't care.
You do have to watch them, though. That tall one I got, she'll stuff that washer like a concrete mixer. I mean, I don't know. You couldn't get a fart in there. There's so many clothes, and it comes out as this big amalgamate blob.
You know that's not right. Well, here's the problem. Like, the main issue is that we're also not very good or consistent at our laundry, and so by the time, kids are going to go do their own laundry, they're having to chuck someone else's laundry out, or like mine's half washed and it's wet and it's holding the place up. And so if I were better, if we did a better job as parents, then the kids would probably do a better job as kids.
See, you need to, it's a game at my house, because if I leave my stuff in the washer and it's blocking somebody, they will literally just take it out and put it on the floor. They're like, hey man, you wanted your laundry through, you had your time, and you wasted it, sir. So then I got to rewash my stuff because they smell like steak. And I'm like, well, fairly done. I should have got my stuff out.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I'm not against that. I don't think it's a bad thing to teach your kids. I just like, from a logical perspective, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Okay, you're listening to Live for the Path. Hey, real quick, sorry, before the show ends, we did get a submission on the Live for the Path complaint line last week. We were talking about the advice we would give to the housekeeper. Or like, what is the gift that you give to the housekeeper? And the suggestion on the complaint line was, I think that this housekeeper deserves something that really commemorates the relationship between these two. Not something that will wilt away like flowers. And not something too romantic like jewelry.
Oh, stop it.
If this housekeeper has been housekeeping for 30 years, she must be busy all the time. Because when you think about it, housekeeping is a busy job that keeps you up to all hours of the night doing laundry and all sorts of things. So she would probably love a vacation, right? A beautiful trip to maybe the Bahamas or Italy, where they can relax and really enjoy their time. They can sit on the beach and revisit all the good memories they had when working for you. And they can do this instead of sitting at home feeling awkward because their boss got them jewelry, or feeling underappreciated because their boss got them flowers. Also, vacations are expensive, so to pay for one really shows how much you care for a person.
I mean, that feels well-rounded, actually. Jewelry isn't always romantic.
I don't know. Would you get another man a ring?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How many have you done?
I've bought 0 rings so far.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'm thinking if you're a house cleaner, well, I guess you can have life outside house cleaning, but it's not like you have a lot of opportunity to wear fine jewelry.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Guys,
They have
you're
a life
way
outside.
overselling this fine. I mean, we didn't order it from the Tiffany's. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just
A cheap bobble?
crap.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. What do you think of this vacation idea? Hit us up on the Live for the Path complaint line, 515-517-0085.
You're
Call or
taking
text.
complaint line comments based on other complaint line comments?
Yeah. Let us, I don't know. Are we satisfied that this vacation really nailed it?
Can we send them to the Lake of the Ozarks? I mean, do they have to go to Italy?
Yeah, I agree.
Italy might be a bit much.
I agree with Dan.
No, ski
Domestic travel. Yeah, Branson. That's all right. Okay. All right. We're going to cut you loose. Thanks for hanging out with us on Live from the Path. I think we'll be around next week. And hey, we do have some musical guests coming up. We're going to get Arendelle and Dirk Von Stein are doing a show together. And I said, whiz bang, fellas. Why don't you come on in? So they're going to be here sometime in the beginning of May. That's going to be great.
Okay.
So we'll, I don't know. We'll see you when we see you. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.
The man is out of sight. Ooh, he's a tough son of a gun.